highly confident massive turnout by the end of this year. He said naturally happening overnight and added that the government put in measures to out economic challenges, addressing a maybe relaxed start in Accra yesterday. The president said it might look long to some, yet in reality it was close. They would not have to apportion blame current difficulties coming in the nation. He said it was a fact that the mistake past have caught up. He said years of underinvestment in social institutions had begun to take toll on the Mr. Muhammad mentioned disconnect and are found income function and our income capacity as one source of the economic match. So that is our president. Sure. As a reminder, join at the text on the line is 50297050907. Keep your comments in and read them out to you. Welcome first. What do you think on the pressure and the economy is really going around? I mean, we are barely halfway here. And
yes, thank you. I wrongly at yesterday giving Ghanaian assurance that by the end of 14 we would have turned around the economy. But let me quickly say, I always say that each and every Ghanaian has a role to play when it comes to make sure that we put the economy on track. We find ourselves in a country where we import almost everything. And find yourself in a country where we don't place much emphasis and value on locally made products, and we want so much invested in imported things. Kill local investment. It kills local production. And automatically these things go on with affect our economy. If you have a country, we are told 60% of revenues goes in paying the salary of about 150,000 in the public sector. It's quite worrying. And another issue is we also find ourselves in a situation where activity is very low. I mean, over the few months, I've been hearing organized by with hearing in work in the public sector, making calling government to aid their salaries and what have you. I'm not against increase in, but one thing that I've always is that salaries always correspond to productivity. So at the end of the day, if I'm paying you, I must get value for money. The question we must ask ourselves is that, are we getting value for money in terms of how much we are paying our workers? And I think that these are issues that we need to answer ourselves. So yes, the president has assured us that the economy will turn around hopefully by the end of this year. And we all pray and hope so. But I believe strongly that each and every Ghanaian also has a role to play in order to make the president's assurance a reality.
Ralph, I'm coming to you, but I find this common phrase that a chunk of our national revenue goes into the payment of salaries of public sector workers. It beats my imagination to think that these statistics, I mean, is it suddenly that it has come up, or since successive governments, they have faced this challenge and still we've not done nothing about it and continue to increase, I mean, the amount of revenue that goes into public sector workers? Are we seeing any headway at all?
Well, I think my compliments to our viewers. I think that this is something that we've heard over the last year or last year and a half, particularly after the implementation of the single spine salary system. Now, the question we must ask is that, did we just do it for as a political expediency, or was this something that was consistently
thought of well
and analyzed by, you know, people who are related to it? I know that it came up when Dr. Papa Kwesindo was the Minister of Public Sector Reform, where you realized that there was some systematic reform coming up with regards to the public sector. Okay, Paul was questioning whether the public sector is really productive and whether they deserve any salary increase. I think that the best person who has spoken to this is the president. We believe that he is supervising everything that is happening in this country. So if he says things are going to turn around, then it means that there will be certainly some changes that are emanating from his office. Let me make a confession to you. With my experience in the private sector, you know, working for Dr. and Mrs. Ndum over these years at Coconut Grove, I know for a fact that workers who are behaving badly or workers who are not competent are not directly held responsible, but the people supervising them. That is why you are the supervisor. You have the supervision beyond what the ordinary worker sees. So in this case, if the public sector workers are perceived not to be working well, and not to deserve what they are asking for, from 5.24 to 6.01 Ghana cedis a day, then who are their bosses? Who are supervising them? What are the benchmarks that they have put in place to make sure that these people produce and produce well?
So what comes first? Is the payment well paid first, and then you getting the productivity? Or because there was a statement that attributed to former President Kufuor some time back, who said that if the government pretends to be paying workers well, then workers would also pretend to be working. So which comes first?
Your question is tempting me to question the overall setup of the government system and machinery.
Exactly.
And I'm saying this based on what I know, what I have been inculcated with, and what I am practicing. In that the buck starts and stops with the person in charge.
Okay.
Now, you should have benchmarks. Every department, be it immigration, police, BEFs and DEFs, just name it. Are they charging the right fees? Are people at the ports paying the right fees? If they are not, who is checking them? Who is making sure that they are taken through the various stages of discipline to make sure that this person either chooses to remain in work and become productive, or the steaming crowd of unemployed people have to be brought in to replace them? We just need to get, because how come, we should ask ourselves, how come the private sector is perceived to be more serious, more demanding than the public sector? How come that it is said that the private sector is the engine of growth? Because there is the perception that you demand the supervision and management demands that you produce. And mind you, it's not a demand that is out of place. No, it's a demand that if you work for 8 hours, you produce what you're supposed to produce in 8 hours. But if this demand is not being done with regards to the public sector, then
are you therefore referring to monitoring and evaluating people's performance?
Yes.
To ensure that they conform with standards.
Monitoring and evaluation.
Which is not being forthcoming at the public sector.
Forthcoming, I don't expect that there will be this argument of whether the public sector is efficient or inefficient. No, you should know it straight up.
Okay.
It should be very easy to find. And buttressing on what he said with regards, the economy can only turn around if we're able to operate first and foremost within our means. We can't spend monies we don't have. This is not a secret. We are spending beyond our means. And the investment is not an investment that is channeled towards production that can bring us immediate benefits or medium-term benefits or long-term benefits. For example, if today, as we are talking now, there was a law, or the president said, we will not import chicken from, say, September. All of you, Mr. Quarter and your people, this is the demand, 10,000 tons or 20,000 tons. I am making available a facility for you. It's not government that's going to disburse that facility. It's not some fund that is going to disburse it. No, we'll channel it through the banks. I can tell you for a fact that in less than 6 months, you will find lives of people changing. Now, I don't want to call this statement, or better still, I'm tempted to call this statement a rhetoric, in that you really don't see the action plan that is backing this statement. If the president on May Day came and said, Avaima is being transformed so that local production of rice is going to go up by this much. The upland rice production up north, this and this is going to happen. In Shaman, we've empowered them with power.
Then you see something practical.
That this is practical. But this one, I'm afraid and tempted to think,
as much as the president accepted, he emphasized that he's not going to apportion blame to others, but that we are facing this current situation because of our past mistakes. And naturally, these things that are happening now, he's then apportioning it to the mistakes done before perhaps he came around. But then, by barely halfway through 2014, and he says he wants to turn the economy around. Is it meaningful at this stage? Is he saying this? Isn't it a rhetoric like he's saying, just trying to appease the workers that we will turn around? Turn around in which way? There are so many challenges that the economy is facing now.
Well, it's true. I think, as Mr. Korte rightly said, I mean, the president is the chief supervisor who supervises the activities of the public sector. And so if the president comes to tell us that by the end of 2014 there would be some kind of transformation in our economy, then maybe it may be because probably he has in mind some decisions, some policies to come up with which will bring about a transformation in the economy.
Oh, I don't mean to cut you, but for instance, I mean, it's obvious that the Bank of Ghana short-term measures to cushion or to rectify the depreciation of the cedi is failing woefully. I mean, it's failed. So if you stand by 2014, May 2014, you say, well, turn around because I have measures in place. What kind of measures will turn the economy around, or will be able to turn the economy around drastically by the end?
Well, it's true. I think Mr. Korte was saying that, assuming the president in his speech had indicated, I mean, measures they were taking to ensure the increase in rice production, I mean, measures they were taking to ensure that, I mean, things are happening. I mean, the fact that maybe they may want to place a ban on the importation of chicken and what have you, then we may know that, of course, something is happening. In this case, of course, something of that nature was not mentioned. But like I said, I mean, I'm one person who strongly believes that if the president has said that, well, by the end of 2014, the economy will turn around, of course, one would have been happier if the president had given us some measures that they are taking or they are yet to take, which will ensure that the economy turns around. But the fact that he did not mention that simply means that let's give the president till the end of December 2014. If by the end of December 2014 we have not seen any major turnaround in the economy, then we can say that, Mr. President, you promised us on May Day that by the end of 2014 the economy would have turned around. But you and I can clearly see that the economy has not been transformed. So what explanation can you give to us with regards to that? So for me, I believe strongly that whether it's a rhetoric or not, I mean, we are the judges. He has spoken and we are the judges. By the end of 2014, we will be the best people to determine whether indeed there has been a change or not.
So like we are saying, the economy turning around is a blanket statement. Now, let's refer to this thing here that the AGI has specifically given, it has its barometer report that it comes out periodically about the economy, various sectors. Now we can begin to look at the sectors and see. Now the economic business page of the front page of the economic, the Business and Financial Times says economy requires drastic measures, says AGI. Now confidence in the business environment among industrialists has taken its worst dip in 4 years, with the Association of Ghana Industries calling for drastic measures to arrest the dwindling fortunes of businesses. Business confidence dipped in all major sectors of the economy, including agriculture, services, manufacturing, and construction. The AGI's barometer survey for the first quarter of 2014 showed over 60% of the 446 businesses, let's continue here on page 2, surveyed do not expect improvement in the business climate within the next 6 months due to factors like rising inflation, the increasing depreciation of the cedi, Bank of Ghana, forex rules, and high taxation. What it means is that a lot more people are having serious challenges when it comes to doing business in the country. If nothing drastic is done about the current situation we find ourselves in, particularly with the cedi depreciation, then definitely the future is bleak, said AGI President James Asari Ejay. We need to call on the managers of the economy to look at these things, which are the realities on the ground, so that we can together turn around the situation. Ralph, again, so this is the business, umbrella body of business setups. They're saying that the economy is facing a bleak future, and it's specifically come out of certain sectors that are facing, like services, construction, and others. What do you think about this?
This is a very serious statement. It is serious because it's like a house where, excuse me to say, the wife is going in a different direction and the husband is going in a different direction. The president is also optimistic that 2014, come 31st December, there will be a total transformation of the economy. AGI, that is the engine of industry in Ghana, in every sector, you may call it, okay, says we are very, very pessimistic. So let's say the report even came out in March. April, May, June, July, August, September. 3 months before the end of the year, business in Ghana is going to be very, very cautious and protective of itself. They will be very cautious to make any new investments, to venture into any areas that they are not sure about. Even if they are going to borrow, they are going to be very cautious. So we have two different, very, very serious and extreme statements that don't seem to gel. If the president's statement was complemented by a positive one from the barometer, and the barometer, the survey is not a one-day survey. It's over 4 years. Okay, so it's a difficult situation, and I think that I don't know how the government is going to engage the members of AGI to change their tone, and not change it for changing sake, but based on what they see to be good prospects. Because I'm sitting here, for example, I'm very cautious in the sense that looking at my numbers, last year, January, February, March, we spent almost 200,000 on energy. This year, we are spending 400,000 on energy and water. Same period. Now, my revenue, has it gone up? No. Is it challenged? Yes, because the CD is falling. Okay, so there has to be a serious approach to changing this perception and then moving the economy forward. Questions we have to ask, and back to this statement, is that are we living within our means? Do we even people who are in government, do they understand what the people in industry, do they understand their language? Do they appreciate their viewpoint? Okay, somebody called on the radio yesterday, had a contract with government, went for a loan of $5,000, imported stuff from UK, and the rate then was 2 cedis. Now it's 2.8 or even 2.9. And the worst of it, he hasn't even been paid. Okay, so how is this person supposed to plan?
It's a terrible situation.
So there has to be, a good relationship between what the government says. I will say that what the government is saying should be a reflection of the level of confidence that industry has. And because they are going to make it happen. Government is not going to make it happen. Government is a policy maker and they facilitate. But the main players on the field is industry.
Let's move on to another story here. Over 40% of workers paid illegal wages. Now, more than 40% of workers, most of them in the informal sector, earn below the national daily minimum wage, the Trades Union Congress has said. The situation is a gross violation of the law and workers' rights, leading to the TUC and other organizations, Wage Indicator Foundation from the Netherlands, National Labour Commission, the Labour Department, Ghana Federation of Labour, and Ghana Employers Association to launch an online portal where workers can report such violations and other infractions of their rights. Illiteracy, poor education about the labour laws, and the general laxity in law enforcement seem responsible for the widespread non-compliance with minimum wage legislation, especially in the weakly regulated informal sector. The national daily minimum wage, the least salary that a worker can receive, was set at 5.24, that's 5 Ghana cedi 24 pesos in 2013, an increase of 17% over 2012. At the time of writing this report on Wednesday, the TUC, together with private employers, and government, were still negotiating the minimum wage for 2014. So we are told they're still negotiating for the minimum wage, which possibly might come out today, who knows. But is this not worrying? I mean, Paul, this over 40% paid illegal fees. So you see, so we're talking about the fact that who should take the first step. Does government have to pay well before it engenders what do you call it, a responsive production, high productivity levels? I mean, what do you
thank you very much. I have said this before, that it is good to always look out for investment, to get people to come and invest in our country. But the fact that we need to get people to come and invest does not mean we must compromise the well-being of the people for some so-called investment. Now, the issue that you have just, read out to us is quite worrying. Because what this means is that you have a lot of people coming into our system and they do not even work with our labor laws. I don't know if you will remember, but just before the 2012 elections, I was personally listening to some comments being made by some people on some radio stations, and they were actually talking about the fact that their employers were saying that they should come to work on the election day and close at 12 noon, and that they were not going to grant unto them free full day holiday.
Exactly.
And some of the people were complaining that, look, we need to travel to our constituencies to enable us vote. You and I are very much aware that by 5 p.m., election comes to an end. So if somebody lives somewhere, if somebody's constituency is somewhere in the Brahafo region, and the person has to leave Accra to the Brahafo region, and it will take the person not less than 8 hours to arrive in the Brahafo region, and the person is closing work at 12 noon, by the time the person gets to his or her constituency, voting or elections would be over. But doing this means that you would have disenfranchised that person. And it is illegal and it's against the law to disenfranchise anybody. And so these things are clear that when foreigners especially come into our country, many of them try to do what they like without paying attention to our labor laws. And of course, let me be fair by saying that this practice is not only going on amongst foreigners who are actually investing in the country, but we even have local businesses that are also underpaying their workers. It will amaze you to know that there are security personnel and what have you, people serving as security men and what have you, who are paid 80 Ghana cedis a month. People who are on night duty from about 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the following morning, and at the end of the month they are paid 80 Ghana cedis. And of course, if you try to complain, they tell you either take it or leave it. Quite recently, I don't know if you may remember, but there was an issue whereby I think the workers of is it ShopRite or so, went on strike, and all the workers were sacked, and they indicated that if you were interested in your job, then you could reapply. The question is that what was done by these people, is it in conformity with our labor laws? I think recently there was an issue whereby some oil companies were even having problems about workers forming unions in the organization. The point is that are these things not contained in our labor law? Does our labor law not say that you have the right to form unions within an organization? These oil companies, before they came into our country to start operating, didn't they know that our labor law encourages the formation of unions? So why is it that all of a sudden we have people who are willing to come and invest, but they are not willing to work with our labor laws? And this is a clear indication of what Mr. Kote mentioned earlier on about supervision. So our leaders who are responsible to ensure that things are done in accordance to our laws must be up and doing and ensure that, like I said earlier, not only should we be interested in people coming into our country to invest, but we should also be very much interested in not compromising the well-being of our people for any useless,
Ralph, you are in the private sector. This headline, how worrying it is, it's also in the private sector. Over 40% of workers paid illegal wages. That's way below the normal.
As the saying goes, in the sense that what do we want to make of Ghana? What do we want Ghana to be like? What do we want Ghana to look like? Okay? And I want to repeat that right from the top to the bottom, we have a Minister of Employment and Social Welfare. We have the Social Welfare Department. We have Labor Commission. So the question is, what are they doing? Because if they were complaining about budgetary allocation or whatever, if people are designated to find out people who are performing illegally, wouldn't there be fines? Wouldn't they be fined? And in fining them, wouldn't they have resource?
Do you think that these things
units?
exposes the weakness of the unions? Because yes, because
I don't think it's a weakness of the union, but
the unions
it's a total
raise up to the
weakness
reality
and failure of the supervisory body.
Okay.
That's it. Whoever is responsible to fix this situation is not doing their job. And I think we just need to understand it that way. Because if there's supervision going on, even if there are certain instances, it will be isolated. 40% out of 100, that is massive.
It's massive.
It's almost half of the people, and it doesn't.
But why would an employer try to pay workers, illegally?
Well,
it's also a point.
It's an issue that people will take undue advantage or take advantage of the system if there is no supervision. And it's not just limited to us. For example, the last time we heard of an Indian diplomat who had issues with a house help she had brought into the U.S. So even in the U.S., it's happening. But if you have a system that has consequences to doing the wrong thing, okay, whereby if you know that you underpay people, there are consequences you won't like, I think it will be stopped. And it's incumbent on the supervising ministry to make sure that this doesn't happen.
And let me just quickly add a little to what Mr. Kote just said. For instance, you realize that demand also exceeds supply. Demand for jobs, demand for employment. So you have demand for jobs exceeding the available jobs, at the moment. And so you have people saying that, well, we are employing you. This is how much we are willing to give you at the end of the month. You either take it or leave it. But if we have a situation whereby there are more jobs in the system, and we have a situation whereby the gap is closed, and demand does not really exceed supply as we find it at the moment, then you wouldn't find a situation whereby people will say, well, this is how much we are willing to pay you, either take it or leave it. So I believe that the fact that demand for jobs also exceeds supply of jobs is one of the major reasons why people are taking undue advantage to underpay people.
Coming on the heels of May Day, my only advice would be for the TUCs to be strong, to be up and doing, so that they might not be perceived to be just paying lip service to whatever functions that they are mandated to undertake. Naturally, we have to work and also gain something commensurate to the work that we do. So on a May Day like this, my only advice would be for government to ensure that it pays workers well, and for workers, like the president said, must also ensure that they step up productivity so that all in all, we will all benefit as a nation. Thanks so much. This is where we draw the curtains on the program. My guests have been Ralph Aite, he is the general manager of Coconut Grove Regency Hotel in Accra, and Paul Drapson, the CEO of Unique Global Connect Solutions, also based here in Accra. My name is Emmanuel Abwaji Yafi. Thanks for watching the Reporters Blog, and join us same time on Monday. Have a nice weekend.
My name is Kofi Samoa, the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress Ghana, TUC. I keep watching programs of BTA. They interview me, and they're doing a great job. So I would encourage all and sundry to patronize BTA activities.
Another innovative way the country started attracting some positive investor interest was through its unique handcrafts.
Basket weaving, which is a traditional handicraft skill for which Rwanda has been known for hundreds of years. It's not a skill, and the products, the baskets themselves, are not that well known outside Rwanda, but they've been used as dowry gifts, as utilitarian vessels for holding things traditionally in Rwanda, but made to a very high standard with very intricate designs. So there are now firms in Rwanda that are selling those baskets to stores that have international reach.
Handcraft is a special sector because it's mainly rural-based, and it's providing off-farm activities. It's something Rwandans know are best at doing. So focusing on it and adding value on it and increasing or guaranteeing market access is very important.
You may have seen some of these piece baskets on the Oprah Winfrey Show, on display in Macy's department stores or in the Marie Claire magazine. But when Joy Ndungutse and her sister Janet started Gahaya Links in 2003, they didn't know that pretty soon they'd be exporting over 50,000 baskets to the US and employing around 3,000 women through their cooperative structured basket weaving company.
We started with a few women, and when African Growth came in Act, we wanted really to target that market because, you know, we are a landlocked country, and we felt if we can export to US without paying taxes, then our products can be able to compete in the market. So we did exhibit in the US. I lived in the US for 15 years, so that's why I thought we would do better. I knew a little the culture of the American people, and I thought I would do better in the US, in a country which I lived in and which I understood very well. So what we did was, we tried in different places, but eventually my partner, also my sister Janet, went to US and exhibited in one of the gift shows in New York, and that's where we met in essence. And the reason why in essence we choose our product, it's because we didn't want people to buy the products because of the story. We wanted to buy the products because they're beautiful and they can be used in their homes, and that's when Mrs. saw the product and liked it.
The idea was to help women who were widowed and left vulnerable after the 1994 genocide to generate their own income. As the demand for these baskets grow, the company is working with government to improve capacity.
Rwanda is landlocked.
We're going around. I mean, we are barely halfway here. And
yes, thank you. I wrongly at yesterday giving Calle assurance that by the end of 14 we would have turned around the economy. But let me quickly say, I always say that each and every government has a role to play when it comes to make sure that we put the economy on track. We find ourselves in a country where we import almost everything, and find yourself in a country where we don't place much emphasis and value on locally made products, and we want so much invested in imported things. Kill local investment, it kills local production, and automatically these things go to affect our economy. If you have a country, we are told 60% of revenues goes in pay.
Do it for as a political expediency, or was this something that was consistently
thought of well
and analyzed by, you know, people who are related to it? I know that it came up when Dr. Papa Kwesindo was the Minister of Public Sector Reform.
Exactly.
Where you realized that there was some systematic reform coming up with regards to the public sector, okay? Paul was questioning whether the public sector is really productive and whether they deserve any salary increase. I think that the best person who has spoken to this is the president. We believe that he is supervising everything that is happening in this country. So if he says things are going to turn around, then it means that there will be set
in order to make the president's assurance a reality.
Ralph, I'm coming to you, but I find this common phrase that a chunk of our national revenue goes into the payment of salaries of public sector workers. It beats my imagination to think that these statistics, I mean, is it suddenly that it has come up, or since successive governments, they have faced this challenge and still we've not done nothing about it and continue to increase, I mean, the amount of revenue that goes into public sector workers? Are we seeing any headway at all?
Well, I think my compliments to our viewers. I think that this is something that we've heard over the last year or last year and a half, particularly after the implementation of the single spine salary system. Now, the question we must ask is that, did we just...
Highly confident, massive turnout by the end of this year. He said naturally happening overnight and aided that the government put in measures to out economic challenges, addressing a maybe relaxed start in Accra yesterday. The president said it might look long to some, yet in reality it was close. They would not have to apportion blame current difficulties coming to the nation. He said it was a fact that the mistake past have caught up. He said years of underinvestment in social institutions had begun to take toll on me. Mr. Muhammad mentioned disconnect and are found income function and our income capacity as one source of the economic match. So that is our president assurance. As a reminder, join the text on the line is 50297050907. Keep your comments in and read them out to you. Welcome first. What do you think on the pressure and the economy?
In the size of about 150,000 in the public sector, it's quite worrying. And another few, we also in ourselves a situation where activity is very low. I mean, over the few months, I've been hearing organized by with hearing in work in the public sector, making calling government to aid their salaries and what have you. I'm not against increase in, but one thing that I've always is that salaries always correspond to productivity. So at the end of the day, if I'm paying you, I must get value for money. The question we must ask ourselves is that, are we getting value for money in terms of how much we are paying our workers? And I think that these are issues that we need to answer ourselves. So yes, the president has assured us that the economy will turn around hopefully by the end of this year, and we all pray and hope so. But I believe strongly that each and every Ghanaian also has a role to play